Hello, Telekios here. I'm going to try to do this without a script because every single time that I'm trying to write down even just my thoughts, everything becomes a jumbled mess. So, the first thing that I wanted to let you know, I guess if you care, I'm not properly dealing with what I talked about in my last video. I'm not properly grieving with it. And I do have a therapist, and I do see my therapist every single week, and I would love to have discussed it with my therapist because I feel that having this sort of life event kind of is something that should be discussed with a professional, and I would have discussed it with a professional, but because I am trying to better my life right now, I have the situation where I once again have to prove that English is not my first language. I once again have to prove that I have learning disabilities. And once again, I have to prove to someone that something being easier does not necessarily mean that it's easy for me and my type of atypical brain. So, when I was supposed to be talking to my therapist about the lack of existence with my family member and how I am not grieving with it properly and dealing with that properly, I am unfortunately derailed that session because I was very upset, not for the countless times the countless person has told me and accused me of being a liar about English being not that hard and the subject matter that I'm trying to go into. It's easier to do this thing, which I am not interested in. Fun fact about Taylor: if she's not interested in the topic, that topic will become unimportant. It's like close to non-existent. She will not think about it and she will not deal with it, and it will be the same thing as if it does not exist. Out of sight, out of mind. I'm quite familiar with some of my traits, some of my problems, and the fact that that is a trait that might be due to part of my learning issue, the atypical brain. I would get a diagnosis, but my PCP that chose to be assigned to me, I did not choose them, they chose to be assigned to me from the hospital, has not seen me pre-2019, pre-Crohn virus. So I'm just like, how am I supposed to get a recommendation to get a proper diagnosis to figure out what's wrong with me if that person does not want to do that? Also, because that person doesn't want to do that, I cannot get the medical assistance that I need. May I remind you, probably no more than my PCP, because my PCP doesn't even know what ethnicity I am. But somehow they know what I eat, and they made sure to tell me, I know what you eat. How? I would love to know that. I really would. And I have a therapist in the same hospital branch where they can see everything that happens within, like, my communications between my hospitals, different hospitals that I go to that are within the same branch, and the doctors that I communicate with. My therapist is like, I saw your message, because I gave him permission to see my messages. So my therapist is like, I'm sorry, you gave me permission, so I am looking at your messages, and that was not expertly handled in my fourth language. Duh. So I told my therapist, it's like, I've been trying to communicate with this person, but this person is unresponsive since 2019, pre-pandemic. So I am sure that this is not an excuse, and if they're too busy to take care of one patient, what are they doing? They could move me to another patient, another doctor, they could have just not taken me on as a patient because they took me on. I did not sign up for this doctor, or PCP, this PCP chose me. So my therapist was like, do you mind if I talk to them? Courtesy, professional courtesy, professional from professional. Maybe things will get a little bit going and I could try to advocate for you because I see that you're trying to advocate for yourself, which was an issue, and I have been pretty much advocating for myself for a long time, but other people don't want to hear it because they get really threatened by the idea that someone who has a learning disability can somehow learn more languages and be smarter than they are about something that they don't know about, such as my body and how my body works. So my therapist talked to that PCP. First message, perfect, beautiful, instant. Second message, they waited months. My therapist honestly felt like extreme frustration that another health professional was not communicating. They saw how many times I communicated with this PCP and how this PCP doesn't talk to me. So they figured maybe a professional might change that. It didn't. So my therapist was like, yo, you want to get a new PCP? I just know the right PCP that might help you. They're on my team, so the communication will be easier for me to them instead of me to them from me to the hospital to the other person. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I would love a new PCP. Even if I see this PCP once a year, that is way more than I've seen this PCP than my previous PCP that I've seen in person. I believe I saw them once, and it wasn't in person, it was video called. So I've seen this PCP once in a video call, and all the other times, I think it was like 2 to 3 times, it was phone calls. You cannot tell a person like myself who has multiple sclerosis, you cannot tell a person like myself who has deep psychological issues how and whatnot they feel through the phone call. You also can't do blood work and blood tests through the phone. It's impossible. I would love to, and I've already raged over this, so I'm not gonna rage over this again. And I was raging over to some other hospital saying that I need to do something over the phone, which is physically impossible because I need to get blood work done. So I got a new PCP. I was like, yay, yippee, awesome, things are looking up because I got a new PCP. That's the most important thing. I got a new PCP who actually listens to me. The second most important thing is that the PCP that I got now is not only really important, they're like the head of the hospital importance, but they are also from Africa. I was just like, yes, you're African. And I cannot believe this, but it's taken so long to have a doctor, a PCP, a health professional, not straight up assume that I'm lying, because they were the adjacent country to mine. So they knew that there were people from my country going to their country to run away from the war that I've been saying that I was born into for a really long time. And they had a little bit of an accent, which is fine. I love accents. The thing about me, I love accents. Accents tell me that you learn the language after the age of 12. Now, I would love more if I could understand you, even if you do have an accent. And my new PCP does have an accent, and I can perfectly understand them. But because I noticed I clocked the accent, it's even slight accents I clock. I clocked that accent, and I was just like, oh. Can I ask what's your first language? Because I noticed that you have an accent, and they were saying that because I've gotten this too. It's like, oh, you have an accent. You don't speak English perfectly. It's like, oh, sorry, that English is my 4th language. That's 8. This is 8. 4th. Sorry that English is my 4th language, and I am so sorry that I have an accent because I learned it after the age of 12. Either way, I understand my PCP. I love them. I love their accents. I can totally understand them. So they asked after I clocked it. It was like, what's your first language? Let me know, please. I totally just love languages. If having like 6 of them wasn't a perfect example of how many languages I love languages. So I was talking to that PCP and I asked them, that new PCP, that is now my new PCP, had said that their first language is Française. And I'm like so excited. She's like, oh my goodness, it's an African who speaks French. Mais oui, très magnifique. Yeah, I have a problem speaking my 5th language to them because French is my 5th language. So I was just like, I'm kind of, I don't know why, I just got like super shy. I was just like, I'm not gonna talk in French. I'm not gonna do it, even though I wanted to, and I definitely wanted to say merci beaucoup. But I didn't. And that's on me. That is my fault. But I got a new PCP, which was great. That's one of the things that I wanted to say. The other thing that I wanted to say was that not only did I get a new PCP that actually listens to me, and they heard my concerns. My main concern was that I've noticed since I switched from Ocrevus, an infusion for multiple sclerosis, because I have multiple sclerosis. I switched it to the methylfumarate, and I noticed that I started growing more facial hair, and I was concerned, so I asked, is it possible for me to get on estrogen? By the way, I am a female, biologically so. I was born with a lady beat. It's deformed, but I do have a lady bit. Lady bits. I have lady bits. It's just my canal entrance. It's deformed, but I do have one. So I asked my PCP if I could get on estrogen because I don't like the facial hair more than I already have, and I would appreciate it that I would have estrogen. They asked me, it's like, okay, what medications are you on? I love and appreciate the fact that this PCP said I don't know anything about those medications. So let me look them up. Let me do a little bit more research on them. Instead of calling me a liar, they didn't. That's amazing. I'm here for it. So they looked it up because they thought that I was saying that the methylfumarate and Ocrevus were impeding my estrogen production. No, I have an estrogen issue from my family. My family has a whole bunch of issues, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in the Liver King video. Like, my family has a bunch of issues. Hormonal, psychological, cancer runs in my family, other health issues like high cholesterol, diabetes, blood pressure, cardiac issues, cancer, a lot of issues, a lot of psychological issues, RIPing oneself runs in my family. So yeah, my family has a huge history that is not very good. Aside from that, my PCP now asked me if I was comfortable getting the blood work done if I still wanted to get on estrogen. To see, because they didn't find any correlation between my medication and side effects of my hormone production. It's like, okay, I like that. I love that. No, I don't. It's not my medication. It's just like, I noticed that when I switched from the Ocrevus infusion to the methylfumarate, tablets twice a day, I got more facial hair and I generally got more manly, which is fine. I don't care anymore to be called, like, to be confused. I no longer care if I am confused for the opposite gender. Another thing that I love about this PCP is that they asked me, because again my previous PCP has not been around with to take care of me since 2019. So my new PCP, current PCP, asked me if I wanted to get tests done, because the last time, like pre this past PCP, I got tests that was potentially anomalies in my. So they said, like, oh, do you want to get checked out? Would you rather it be a female gynecologist or a male gynecologist? Because that could be a serious issue if it turns out to be cancer. They asked me, which would I prefer? I said I don't really care, because again, cancer runs in my family. I don't care who finds it as long as it's found and nipped in the bud prior for it to become a stage 4 type of situation. From my cousin's passing to my stress that I was feeling with someone else telling me that English is not my fourth language, and I couldn't know that, and I can't have dyslexia because English is my fourth language, and like I just need to do something easier, because easier is easier for me, which is not how my brain works. By the way, social. It starts with 3 digits, 2 digits, and 4 digits. That's how it is. So the first 3 digits, I have no problem remembering. The second 2 digits, or the second set of numbers, I cannot learn them. I reverse them, I flip one of them, I rotate the other one. It's a mess. I cannot with my second 2 digits of my social. My last 4 digits of my social, I kind of remember it, guess it right more times than I do my the second 2 digits of my social. So ease means nothing, because it should be easier to learn 2 numbers than it is to learn 3 or 4. But my brain doesn't do that, because that's not what's wrong with my brain. But people insist that they know, just like people insist that they know what ethnicity I am and what languages I must speak when I tell them that English is my fourth. Also, I have I'm gonna whisper this because I don't want the neighbors to hear this, but I have something called a safe. And this comes with a PIN code. And this PIN code consists of 5 numbers. 5 numbers. And I knew that there was a possibility of it being set of numbers, but because I have MS and because I have dyslexia, I completely just like, my brain just like blocked it. The information is in my brain, by the way. No information is lost. I just have to create a new neural pathway to that information to access that information. Because once it's there, it's there. So I had this information. I'm just like, oh, what is this number? What is this number? What is this number? I couldn't remember it. I couldn't remember it for more than 48 hours. And somewhere between 50 to 62 hours, I started getting this number in my head. I'm just like, why does this number keep appearing? Like, I don't have any information attached to this number, but I'm pretty sure this number is important because I keep remembering it. Yay, MS superfan. So I tried it, and I tried it for countless times, like more than 100 times I tried this, and it wasn't working. So then I was just like, out of the random, let me try it one more time. Just me try this one number that keeps popping into my head. I tried it, and it worked. So it's not and by the way, 5 numbers is way more than 2, so why am I getting messy? why do I keep getting messed up with 2 numbers but not 5? I do get messed up with 5 numbers. I do get messed up with 4 numbers. By the way, cell phones, terrible at remembering them. I actually remembered my partner's phone number, but I switched the last 4 digits with the middle 4 digits, which gives you a completely different number if you try to call someone and you switch the middle 4 digits with the last digits. So the ease of something easier to do is not necessarily easy. If we're going to talk about ease of stuff to do, then me learning Portuguese, which is a much harder language, and learning Spanish, which is a similar difficulty level to Portuguese, but I find it a little bit easier, mainly because I probably have the knowledge of the Portuguese language when I learn Spanish. English is a lot easier than that. It should be. But I struggled with English because it borrows rules from other languages, it's not consistent, and it's stupid. So all languages are stupid, by the way. Don't feel special because I called your language stupid. So then I was trying to learn French, and I learned French relatively easily. Because the same thing with like Portuguese and Spanish, it's Latin-based language. But now that I'm practicing my Italian, it becomes way harder than it needs to be. Like, it almost sounds exactly like how I think it would sound, but just slightly off. Which I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure, but yeah. Italian. So I was just like, okay, well, if I was able to do this thing where a person knew that all I needed to do was try harder and take the easier course or classic, the easy one, because it'd be easier for me, because that person knows that. I was talking to my therapist in the session where I should have been describing why I'm not dealing with it, and my therapist unfortunately couldn't, because the whole therapy session got derailed because of that topic. So I couldn't wait because it's time sensitive. So I might be, which is part of the update that I wanted to make, I might be unable to record videos. Not like I already have a good time with track of that. I don't. I know I don't. I'm sorry I don't. I'm trying to. But if I'm going to do this thing, it's going to be all weekdays. They're going to be busy, and I want to have time for myself. I need time for myself to de-stress, to clean myself, to declutter, to organize. So, the internet, sorry, you're going to have to take like the 5th back seat or the 20th back seat. Like, I have more important things to take care about, to take care of, and care more about. So, streaming might get messed up because of this. The video recording days might get messed up because of this. And I would love to keep streaming. It's like easy, lazy content. I just turn on the camera and start streaming, playing a video game, which is what I usually do. But not recording, sitting down, and cohesively speaking or saying what I need to say in video format with minimal to no editing, which is what I'm hoping this video turns out to be. So I'm still not dealing with my cousin's passing. I am now dealing with a new PCP. I am now dealing with a new PCP. I am now dealing with a potential schedule mess up thing coming up soon to potentially get a new job. I am dealing with a bunch of other things, stresses, what life. My life. And I'm trying to focus on my health, because if I don't have that, and I've been having to put that in the back burner because everyone else's life in my family is more important. But my therapist noticed something. I told my therapist that English is my 4th language. They believed me because I got transferred from a different therapist in that, not building, but I got transferred from this for the therapist that I had before them was Dr. Senpai, love them. I completely adore them. To this therapist. And Dr. Senpai was kind enough to tell this new therapist that I'm currently going to for about a year that English is my fourth language. I have a very unique vocabulary and that I speak multiple languages. And if you have a question, it's best to just ask me. If you're having concerns, don't assume. Do not assume. The worst thing you can do is assume. The worst thing you can do is not only assume, but claim to know. It's like, I know you're Hispanic. I know you just need to do something that's easier. I know how your brain works. Like, people that make those statements, it's the second they make that statement, it's the second I know they're full of bullshlogging. I'm not falando com isso. I can't. Eu não posso. Yeah. I can't. So I've been going to therapy regularly every week. And I've been discussing with my therapist what I eat. And that's the other thing. My PCP, my previous PCP, claimed to know what I eat. And even my current therapist was like, how can they know that if what you write down is on your diary card, which you send to my email directly? How they don't have access to that email. They don't, so how can they know? And I was like, and that's the same thing I told them. Like, they don't know. By the way, doctors that know that I'm against medication, this is my pill patina. It's 3 times a day. Because there's a medication, it's a really small one. It's I forgot the name of it, but it's a small one for muscle stiffness, mainly. I'm supposed to take that 3 times a day. The methylfumarate, and I would like to take, that's twice a day. But I like to take it with this other supplement called sunflower lecithin, which helps me with the muscle stiffness or my range of mobility through my MS. It's an over-the-counter supplement, and I love it. And in the middle of the day, I usually just take supplements. Sometimes when I'm tired of shoving supplements up my throat, I will skip the supplements, which is fine, especially if I'm eating enough that the supplements are not needed. I would rather eat food than take supplements as a replacement. I wanted to make a video, probably kind of a popular opinions, maybe, how I feel about the whole pronoun thing, but I wanted to make that after this video, because making it prior to this video kind of wouldn't make sense, especially when I have so much hectic stuff going on. I did make a video. I've made several videos, but I never edit, never upload them, so they don't exist. At least that's what I tell myself. Streaming for the 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I usually stream Warframe because I love that game. It's easy, mindless fun for me, and even with my vision being all messed up, I can still somewhat see what I'm doing. Anyways, this has been Teddy Kills here. Peace. Bye bye. Ow.